How's it going, everyone? In that little course of fire, I did at least 4 things, maybe more depending on how you count things, which would have gotten me moved into open division if it was February and I was shooting at an actual match. But now it's March and the USPSA has changed some rules, and I'm going to go over them in this video because a lot of people are weighing in, and I think the changes are being made into more than they really are, and there's a lot of unearned hysteria about them. So I'm going to go over the rules and just talk about what I think of them. I think, to give you the too long didn't watch version, I think they're awesome rule changes. While I understand a little bit of the controversy, really, I think if you push past your initial reaction to it, there's much less going on here than you think there is. So, first of all, probably the least controversial rule change is that they specified that if a shot passes through a target and strikes another target, or if a shot passes through hard cover or a target and strikes another target, and it can't be determined which hits on a target were the pass-throughs, then a reshoot will be ordered. That really is entirely meaningless. It doesn't, honestly, that's pretty much how things kind of already were. But so that's the first thing. Second thing is, at classifier matches previously, you were supposed to have no more than 6. Now you can have up to 8. This wasn't really enforced because back in November I shot 7 classifiers at Shadowhawk. I didn't even know this was a rule, but they have upped it to you can have a classifier match with up to 8 classifiers in it rather than 6. So up next, they clarified the definition of stacked shots to include that the stacked shots penalty must be assessed if they stack shots to eliminate target transitions. So I can't think of a situation where you would stack shots if you weren't trying to eliminate a transition, but there it is, I guess. The fourth thing that they did was they eliminated the hip bone rule. This is the first of the things that I would have gotten bumped to open division for. I have both my gun and my mag pouch and my magnetic mag pouch forward of my hip bones when viewed from the side. This was a rule in USPSA up till now, where in every division aside from open, limited, and revolver, you had to have your holster and your mag pouches and all that behind your iliac crest, but they completely got rid of that rule, which I think is a good thing. It really was a bit subjective. I personally always played it safe, and I had my mags and pouches and holster back further than I probably really needed to, just to avoid attention. But now it's nice to know that I could put them wherever it is most natural for me without having to worry about having to go and break out my Allen keys and my screwdriver at chrono at a major match just because someone disagreed with me where my own hip bones were. So that's cool. And also they added magnets, which means that you can use magnetic mag pouches if you want. I will say that it's, to be honest, pretty much just a quality of life improvement. Like, it's not going to, like, I'm not, generally speaking, not going to reload from this even at like a speed shoot stage. I prefer my mag pouches because I have them set up very nicely. And also, if I'm going to be running, I would actually prefer to reload from the mag pouch anyways, because it holds the mags more securely than the magnet does. But this will come in handy at like a stage where you have your mags starting on like a barrel or a table. I can just slap the mag on right like that, and I could be fairly certain it'll still be there when I go for a reload. Like I said, I'll have to experiment with this because I'm a Glock shooter, so my mags are metal, but they're lined in plastic, so I'm not totally sure. If I was running metal mags, I would probably have a more dramatic opinion of this, but I'll probably just use it for like barrel starts, and or I'll use it for the unload and show clear. The unload and show clear is where it makes the most sense, and it is the biggest improvement for most people, because rather than having to fish around for a pocket, I can just slap my mag that was in the gun onto the mag pouch and proceed with unloading and showing clear. Any rules regarding the distance from the belt and the height regarding the belt still apply. So your pistol still has to be, the butt of the heel has to be, or the heel of the grip has to be over the belt, and the mags can't be, and also the holster can't be super far away from the belt. It still has to be within a certain length from the belt, but you can still mount them wherever you choose to on your belt, which is, it's gonna really make things a lot better in my opinion. I will also mention that this rule change does also allow people to draw from Appendix. So if you carry Appendix, you can definitely run your Appendix holster in a USPSA match if you so choose. I wouldn't really recommend it. I think it would not be competitive, but if you want some live fire practice with your actual everyday carry rig and you carry Appendix, then you can absolutely do it. There's no cross draw allowed, so yes, you can mount it all the way up to here, but if you mount your holster any further than there, you're gonna start really putting yourself in danger of breaking the 180. So just don't do that. That's still not allowed, but Appendix is definitely allowed now. Up next, single stack maximum weight. The maximum weight of single stack guns has been increased from 43 ounces to 45 ounces. Realistically, this is a change that should have happened a long time ago, because a lot of people were having to game their 9mm 1911s to make weight, because 9mm 1911s happen to weigh more rather than less than their 40 and 45 caliber counterparts. It's kind of funny that this is happening right after someone who is the head of the National Range Officers Institute was bumped to open at Single Stack Nationals because their gun didn't make weight. But really, I think this just underscores the fact that it should have been 45 ounces to begin with, just because it's kind of ridiculous for people who have 9mm 1911s. They should just be able to run them in single stack. They shouldn't have to toy with them to avoid getting bumped to open. So this is a good thing. And finally, the thing that's really causing the most controversy is that now flashlights are allowed in all divisions. If you have a flashlight, it must be functional, but you can run it on your gun in anything from revolver to open. Anywhere you want, you can run a flashlight, but it has to be functional if you're claiming it as a flashlight. In limited division, you can still use the rule where you can take the components out of a flashlight and make a frame weight, but in any other division, your flashlight has to be functional. They published a clarification on this, that this is just really going to be common sense. So the requirement is your flashlight has to produce light. It has to actually function as a flashlight. So that's the rule for it. And they say right in the clarification, is this going to be gamed? Yes, people game everything in USPSA. So I'm sure there's someone already working on a brass flashlight, and probably someone after them is going to work on a tungsten flashlight. Couldn't much care. The gun still has to make weight with the flashlight on it, and it still has to fit in the production box if you're in a division that requires the production box. So you can't put like mag light on the front of your gun and say, oh, it's just a flashlight. No, you're still gonna have to make weight, which means you still can't go too crazy with it. But really, I think this is a good rule change. Now, another clarification that they posted on this is that combination laser / flashlights are allowed, because those are common. One caveat to that is you can't use your laser during a match, because that would bump you to open division. But you can still have a laser light combo on your gun if you chose to. And no, lasers are not tightly focused lights, as some people were starting to claim. Lasers are a very different thing. You can, if you want to focus your light, you can probably do that, but I really think that this is not logical. Lights are never going to be faster than sights, so just use your sights, and if you want to throw a light on there, throw a light on there. And one thing that people were quick to point out was that especially on like iron sight guns in a low light stage, like at nationals almost every year, they have a shoot house and it's very dark inside compared to the surrounding area. People were saying that having a light in those would be a bit of an unfair advantage, because if you light up the light, your iron sights will become much more visible. But they really clarified that to say that if they chose to, a stage designer can specify that your flashlight has to remain off, which is really, honestly, a great idea. I mean, yes, I do think it would be nice to be able to light up a flashlight, but if someone really wants to sell a dark stage as kind of the feature of that stage, they can absolutely say that you can't run your light during that stage. Now, there have been a lot of opinions on this rule change regarding whether or not it is a good thing or a bad thing, and it's kind of, we're a very polarized world these days, so everything's either love it or hate it. No one's right in the middle. I'm going to try to be right in the middle. I understand there are some complaints with regards to, first of all, how the rule change was passed. They didn't go to a lot of the members for feedback, and the rule changes were immediate. There's usually a delay period for rule changes, but this time it was completely immediate. The rules were published and they were effective immediately. So that does definitely have some feathers ruffled, and some people are wondering, just like anytime guns are brought up politically, it's not what's this thing, it's what could come after this, what's the direction going forward. And I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm not part of the USPSA hierarchy. I don't know what their future plans are. I'd like to say that it would include upping production's magazine capacity limit to 15, but I really don't know, and I can't say what the proposed rule changes are going to be. But I will say that my opinion on these rules, just for themselves, is that I think they're awesome. I'm a libertarian, and therefore I think more freedom and more ability to choose for yourself is always going to be a good thing. So I like having the option to run a flashlight. I've carried, I don't own an inside the waistband holster, which does not also happen to be a light bearing holster. I can't carry my Glock, and this is my carry Glock. I can't carry it without the light. So it's kind of odd and funny that I can absolutely track my dot whenever I'm carrying my gun. Like, that light does, and it is a significant advantage. I can absolutely track my dot through recoil with the light on it, which is how I carry it. But whenever I am competing with it, I suddenly am required to have more recoil for really no good reason. So I think these are good rule changes. A lot of people are saying that now that lights are allowed, they're going to basically be required to be competitive at the highest level, and I disagree with that. There are certain guns where I would run a light, and there's certain guns that if I was using that gun already, I would not add a light to them. If you're carrying and competing with a naturally lightweight gun, like a Glock, for example, my 4-ounce Surefire, including its batteries, is not going to make it still even close to as heavy as a Shadow, for example. My gun's still going to be relatively lightweight, but it allows me to shift a lot of that weight towards the muzzle, which is a good thing for fighting recoil. That being said, like I said, there are certain guns where if I was running them, I would not put a light on because it would just make the gun too heavy, in my opinion. For example, Shadow 2, Tanfo, even a 92. If I was running those sort of guns, I probably wouldn't add the light because then it would start having a tendency to dip under recoil. So I really think this is just sort of a balancing act where people who have lightweight guns like myself, who wanted to add a light all this time but didn't want to go compete open division because that would be ridiculous, we're now able to at least sort of catch up to the guys running the heavier guns. And admittedly, maybe that's my own bias right there. Maybe the reason I like this rule is because it helps me out and, in my opinion, doesn't really negatively affect people who already have those heavier guns. Another reason I like this is because I'm still relatively new to shooting USPSA. I have only been really into the sport for a year and a half. I've liked the idea of competing for quite some time, but I only last September found out about all the clubs in the area that do shoot USPSA, and so that's when I started competing. So I still see things through a relatively noob sort of point of view, where I think things that reduce the barrier to entry are absolutely good things for the sport. I think it's great that we're now making it easier for people who already have a full belt set up for their gun which has a light on it, they can actually compete in the division where they'll be competitive rather than having to jump into open division and being discouraged and not really getting into the game. Yes, I know people are saying that now we're going to get too many tactical Timmies at the matches, and I have to tell you, if you look back at some of the older videos on my channel, I was a tactical Timmy. I focused mainly on ARs and all kinds of tactical stuff. But once I tried USPSA, I absolutely got hooked, and now that's where I focus really the majority of my shooting stuff. I haven't really played with my 223 ARs in probably a good year. I prefer pistols. I always have preferred pistols, but now I really don't do much with my ARs, so I've jumped fully into the USPSA game, and people are complaining that the tactical Timmies aren't going to set up matches, they're not going to help in matches. I set up every match that I'm able to. At East Huntington and at Pitcairn Monroeville, I go to the setups because, well, not only because it's easier for me to get Saturdays off than it is for me to get Sundays off, but I enjoy being into the sport. I enjoy helping with the sport, and I was a tactical Timmy, and I'm willing to bet that most of the tactical Timmies, whenever they become exposed to the sport and they're able to actually be competitive, well, they're able to actually have competitive gear in the sport without spending $150 on a holster that doesn't fit their gun in the optimal form. I think once they get into the sport, they will be like me, they'll be drawn to it and they'll help out. I really do think that. I think the easier it is to get new shooters out to matches, the more shooters we will have actually becoming involved and engaged, and when that happens, we'll have more shooters who are skilled, competent, and safe with their handguns, and when we have that, we'll have a better overall community, not just in USPSA, but in gun ownership altogether. I think people who shoot USPSA are generally some of the better parts of gun ownership because we are actually very invested in the sport, not just from a, oh, look at all my safe queens. This is something we actually enjoy doing. And I feel I've been somewhat upfront with the fact that yes, having a light is an advantage on at least most guns, or some guns, but advantages are nothing new to USPSA. There are certain things which are more advantageous or more competitive than other guns or than other things. Like if you are running a Shadow, up till now you have had a generally less muzzle flippy gun than a Glock. Or if you're running a Glock, you generally speaking have, well, actually let me back that up. If you're running a Glock 34, you're generally speaking going to have less recoil and more grip area than a Glock 26. So it's not as if allowing lights is anything new. Yes, it will be, at least on a lot of guns, it will be a competitive advantage, but competitive advantages are nothing new. And I honestly, not even being facetious, if someone has an explanation as to why lights are suddenly the end of the world, but they were perfectly fine with heavy metal guns like Shadows, Tanfos, and even the Beretta 92, if they're okay with those being legal but they're not okay with lights being legal, I'd love to hear what the arguments for and against each are. And honestly, if you have any opinion on these, please go ahead and sound off in the comment section. I'd love to engage with someone about what you think about these rules, even if that's different than what I think. I have my opinions, and I mean, I'm pretty confident in them. I've thought about this quite a bit, and I've been in favor with this. I've been in favor of this since before it was even a proposed rule change. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm unbiased, but I will say that I would like an explanation if you have a different opinion than me, because like I said, I enjoy conversing with people who are in this sport, and if you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear your side of the story. I've listened to some shooters who are definitely more skilled than myself and have been playing this game longer than myself. They have sometimes a negative opinion of this, and I still don't really understand their side of the story. So if you can explain why you're against lights, please go ahead and let me know. The other thing that people are saying is now a competitive advantage, therefore required, is magnets. And admittedly, I just got my magnet a couple days ago, so I'm not super experienced with it. And the fact that I run Glock mags definitely probably affects my opinion of it. I wouldn't run them for my primary like reloading mag pouch. I've seen people with metal mags lose their mags during many courses of fire. So I don't think that I would say that it's required. In fact, I wouldn't really recommend it for anything aside from a barrel start mag holder or a unload and show clear mag holder. So people who are saying that this is now a competitive advantage and therefore required, I disagree with that too. But like I said, if you have your opinion, I would love to talk about it in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Again, if you have your opinions, even if you agree with my opinion, go ahead and sound off in the comment section, because I really enjoy talking about this sport, which is my favorite thing to do. Thank you for watching, and have a good one. Hope to see you on the range.